I guess we're live tonight. How y'all doing? It's been a little while since we connected. Hope you're doing well. It's June. And it's June, and it's, well, for me, 40 years, June means National Amateur Retriever Championship. And my theme and discussion for today is going to be game day preparation. Really, the things you do, I do, that I suggest you do the day before, the day of, and during the event itself. So important to have a regimen, a routine, something that you do in the most crucial time. This is the stuff that you've been preparing for and working for all year, over the years. So let me talk about that just a minute. Because in this month, in our Retriever Revolution, the membership, that's the subject, game day preparation. So in the first week of our revolution, we spoke of what do you do the day before the event? And I hope we're cooking here because I'm remote and Robin's checking to make sure we're live. So I hope we're live before I dive into this whole thing. All right, so let me get back to what I was saying. Game day preparation. This is all the stuff that you've been working so hard at all year and over the course of multiple years. I wrote some articles about preparing for a national is what I talked about. And I talked about it starting 6 months ahead of time. But it really starts years ahead of time. But when I say game day, I'm talking about we're there. It's the excitement, all of the preparation has happened, all of the training. Now what are we going to do to get the most out of what we already have? Because at this point, you're not teaching them anything new. You're just trying to get the best of what they are capable of. And I'm talking about you and your dog. Now, in the Retriever Revolution, the first part of game day was not actually game day, it was the day before game day. And we talked about things we want to accomplish the day before we run, the day before the big stage. Now, obviously, this depends a little bit on the temperament, age of the dog we're talking about. But let's just talk about the average middle of the road dog. The dog that fits between the really high powered and maybe the older or the softer dog that you don't want to train the day before. The things that I try to accomplish the day before an event are, number one, I want to talk about getting a dog to stay in focus and watch his birds. We talk about head swinging, a dog looking off this bird in anticipation of a more exciting bird to the left or the right. Now, head swinging, I say, is not really the problem. It's the symptom. The real problem is the dog isn't focused and fixed on what's happening in the moment. And we all know what that's like. We do that ourselves. So priority one, day before an event, I work on staying focused on typically a longer bird. And I say longer because it's longer than another gun station in the test. I'm not going to put a yardage on it or distance. But mostly what I'm trying to do is get a dog to stay fixed and focused on a marked retrieve, a single marked retrieve, when this dog thinks there's another bird going to be shot. And oftentimes that other bird is a live flyer. And so there's a real challenge. So priority one, day before an event, head swinging, focus. So I throw usually a single first with multiple gun stations. The second thing I want to accomplish is I want to accomplish teamwork and pliability on the line. So how do I do that? I'm going to oftentimes then shoot a live flyer or something that simulates that, an exciting bird. Dog just did a single, had to watch the single with the anticipated live flyer in the field. Made him do the single. Now we shoot that bird that he really wanted. And again, I'm talking about a dog that is a little advanced enough to do a poison bird. And I know them off of that flyer, and I make them do some sort of a blind retrieve. And not a blind retrieve that's right by the flyer, not a blind retrieve that I think they're going to pick the flyer up when I'm trying to get another bird. I'm talking about typically a fairly big move off of that flyer. Because what I'm working on is teamwork and pliability in the 5-foot circle, on the mat, at my side. So I'll make them move and run a land blind. Okay? So now they run a land blind out of the test oftentimes. And then a lot of times I try to find a short, more of a check down bird, a bird that I want them to be relaxed on. Now, there's two different scenarios that I often do on that game day. If I throw that simulated flyer and I run the blind, oftentimes I'll let them have that flyer now. I'll send them for it as a reward, so to speak, for doing the blind and being a team player. And then I want to finish with another marked retrieve. Most of the time, that marked retrieve is short of that flyer. I'm trying to cover my bases here. So I'm trying to deal with head swinging, concentration. I'm dealing with the pliability of moving with me on the line. That's the land blind, pulling off of a flyer or a simulated flyer. I let them then. My last two things, I'm working on enhancing marking because I want the confidence and the I got it kind of attitude. Now, all I'm trying to do is just do my last minute preparation. Check a few boxes. Now, depending on your dog's level, maybe your dog's not going to run a blind, maybe you're running a derby dog, maybe you're running other scenarios. But think about concentration on marks, cooperation on the mat, and marking enhancement. The three biggies. That's day before. Let's talk about the day of. Because my second week in our Retriever Revolution, our membership, I talked about what do you do when you first get there, when you show up on scene. Well, one of the things I talked about is making sure your dog is well warmed up. I'm not talking about doing the test. I'm talking about preparing your dog physically and mentally to run. I want to prevent injuries. I want to get them loosened up. So I want to do a warm-up. Dr. Janelle Appel has a great system in walking your dog, heating him up, doing figure eights, doing things that loosen their muscles up like any athlete would do before they stepped on the court, stepped on the field. The next thing I talked about is your pre-snap checklist. The things you're going to do when you witness the test. What are the things you need to look at and think about? Now, in this instance, almost always, the first thing you're going to do are going to be a set of marked retrieves. It may or may not have a blind in with it. So you're going to talk about how do I watch test dog? How do I evaluate the situation? Certainly, I want you to make certain that you're in a position to get a good view of test dog. You want to study the order of the throws. You want to stand on the spot you're going to send from, whether it's a mat or a box or a location. You want to get up there and you're going to visualize, how's this going to go? You want to make sure you memorize the order of the throws. I like to drop down to a knee and look at dog level. Is there a patch of cover in the way of one of the birds? Do I want to be a little left or a little right when I'm watching the birds? Where do I want to be when I send for these birds? These are all important things. I want to know what the wind is. I want to study the visibility of the gun stations. I wrote a couple of articles that were published in Retriever News about my pre-snap checklist. 4 blinds and 4 marks. And I went into pretty high detail about exactly that subject. And you need to have your own pre-snap checklist. But you need to know what the order of the test is. And you need to identify really the real challenges. And you need to watch test dog. And then if you have the luxury of watching multiple dogs, well, watch a pattern develop. And then think about, well, what order of pickup am I going to try to get them in? In other words, if we have a triple and I want to get the last bird down first, what bird do I want to send for next? And what are the dogs doing? And what is the success rates depending on whether they're going for this bird or this bird? Are you going outside, middle? Or are you picking up the go bird and then going after the middle bird next? These are all things that are included in what you need to think about before you ever step to line. An important game day protocol for me. And it needs to be that same thing for you. And I'll tell you, once you develop that routine and you do it over and over again, you're going to be prepared when you signal that judge and he gives you your number. Doesn't mean you're going to do all the tests right, but you're going to give it your best shot. You're going to have a plan. You're going to visualize success. You've done your preparation the day before. You've done your warm-up before, right before you've gone to line. And you've trained hard over the past 6 months, year, 2 years, and you're prepared. So have a game day ritual. It's important to have, no matter whether you're running dogs or playing any other sport. Visualize success. Visualize how it's going to work. Do that over and over again and think positive and be that firm, convicted leader. Doesn't mean everything's going to go great, but you're going to give it your best shot. And when you have that positive mental attitude, your dog's going to feel it. The judges are going to feel it. So it's an exciting thing to talk about. I really appreciate you spending, this evening with me because it's getting close to national time. It's such an exciting time. You guys are going to have a similar scenario whether you're running a weekend event, your first field trial or hunt test, a master national, a master amateur national, or maybe a national amateur. It's all exciting stuff. And never forget, this is a game. I want you to have fun. Are you going to make mistakes? Of course you are. We all do. But you'll learn from all those. What did Nelson Mandela say? I never lose. I either win or I learn. And you're going to learn something. So, hey, thank you for being with me here tonight. Game day strategies are awesome stuff. And I'll tell you what, in our Retriever Revolution, we're doing great stuff. So if you have an interest, check out what's going on. And thank you so much for spending the evening with me. And I wish you the best. Okay. Have a great night, and thank you so much. Bye bye for now.